Welcome to the final headache for this playthrough. Finally we're here, Mission 26, Sunrise, also known as Beam of Light. What a way to end it. So this mission is several headaches on top of several more headaches. So while these guys are just talking, they're going to be talking for a while. Let me explain. As I mentioned, this mission is completely broken. There's a very simple and cheap strategy to beat it, which you pretty much need anyways, because like with the Talon Gun mission, the medals for this game want you to complete this 15, maybe 20 times. I don't remember. I don't have that medal yet. I never got that medal, because you just have to complete this once and you've seen all there is to see. But the thing is, the really annoying thing is, there's dialogue all the way up to turn 12. And with the strategy that I've been using in practice, you can complete this mission well before turn 12. Like 5 turns before turn 12. And they actually want you to do that for 100 speed, so they kind of knew how busted this mission was. So what that means is I have to somehow record all the dialogue, because the longer you take in this mission, the more the more Calder's forces kind of snowball, and you'll see what we mean by that later. But let's just say I've been getting a little more help from Mr. Bear. He's making it far less painful because he's so helpful in cuddling with me. But yeah. So what I think I'm going to do is, after the first turn and the War Room segment, I'm going to just record a playthrough of the strategy in practice, and then kind of try to get all of the dialogue. And then maybe show the ending. Like I have to record the two games separately, basically. I can't do the side-by-side thing forever. It's really... I guess this game is going to have the last laugh after all. And I'm not even sure if the dialogue has been perfectly synchronized. There's just so many differences in the number of text boxes. This has honestly been quite the journey. As much of a wreck as it is as far as like video editing goes, it's been interesting seeing all of the different dialogue choices, because you hear about all the differences online, of course, but to actually see that there was no such person as Mr. Bear in Dark Conflict, I think it's been a great window into the difference between a localization and a direct translation. Because, like, even without the Mr. Bear stuff, Days of Ruin just does so much more. Like, it injects humor where there was none originally, but this is Advance Wars, so I think that's to the game's benefit. I mean, it doesn't really need to be super serious when you have a post-apocalyptic setting, yet there are still, like, cities and factories and functioning airports and all of that other fun stuff. Like, one airport would survive an apocalypse of that nature, but several of them, like in this map, like, why are there even all of these cities and stuff? They haven't even been occupied yet. And they're talking about the nature of morality and stuff, and I'm sure it's very interesting to read. You know, even this does get tiresome, even if Will's right. And I didn't think it was possible for anyone besides Lynn to be this pragmatic, but here we are. Oh, and it just stops? They just stop talking? Well, that's interesting. And all of the COs are here, yet only one of them actually does anything, and that's Will. You can't select anyone else. I guess Will is the best CO for this situation, besides, like, Isabella. But Isabella hasn't been selectable in any mission, so why should anyone be selectable here, I guess? I don't know. Alright, so I'll do the war room first. And while this is happening, I will talk about the what we're up against here. So yes, this is the final war room segment. Lynn has had a good time making fun of Will. Well, you can be the reality check girl all the time, Lynn. We like you that way. Alright. What have we got? Capture cities, watch the lasers. This is like those auguries from Fire Emblem 7, to be honest. They're like just common sense stuff. Like, you'd know all of this just looking at the map, I think. Oh, but you know, this is interesting. There's actually a bit of advice here that's only in Days of Ruin. That's very interesting. Unless I missed it in Dark Conflict, but that's something impertinent to talk about, I guess. Thus ends the briefing. It's been a pleasure indeed. So, this is the nest. It basically throws every single black hole invention this game has at you besides the Talon gun. So there are mortars to the left and right. The left one fires on odd numbered turns, and the right one will fire on even numbered turns. They do 5 damage, and they are aimed and have a blast radius like a missile silo. And the lasers do 8 damage to everything they are pointing at. The left and right lasers, I think they fire on every other turn, but they also rotate, so they'll be firing in different directions. The middle lasers, the left one fires on turn 1, the middle one on turn 2, the right one on turn 3, and then it goes back to the left one again for turn 4, and continues from there. These middle 2 columns produce units. They can produce any kind of unit. I think they're scripted, so it's like an Advanced Wars 2 factory, but they aren't ambush spawns, so you can react to what's built. And on one turn, a seaplane comes out, so that's always fun. So, I guess we'll get going with the first turn here, and then if things start deviating, then it will be time to switch to just one game or the other. But I have to record all of the dialogue either way. There are comm towers. I think taking them is not super important. Do they give funds? Okay, some comm towers actually give funds in this game. I didn't realize that until now. So, first thing we're going to do is, for taking out this left laser, we are going to do the war tank and the rocket. Those are going to take care of it. And for the... You're completely safe from any sort of attacks from the lasers and stuff if you go down the lanes that are that have the produced units in them. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to distract the these other units. They're not that great, so they're not super useful. So I'm going to use them to distract the mortar, because it fires on this side on the first turn. So bike, and then 7, 12, and another 12. So 31,000 and 31 up there. So I guess producing any kind of unit should distract the mortar, but let's make it a tank. And on this side, the bomber is going to go all the way up here, and the anti-tank is going to do the same. Ooh, careful. Don't want to accidentally end turn. So I guess the comm towers are more important than the airports right now. And by doing this, I could also get a B-copter, but I probably better save up my money. You start with a lot of income on this map, I gotta say. So there's some more dialogue. I guess I can reduce the amount of re-recording I have to do. Super powerful lasers and poison bombs in Dark Conflict. It's interesting that they're specifically poisoned bombs. That's really weird. Alright, so distracting the mortar didn't seem to work. But that's fine. They still have enough HP to take down that laser, so that's what's most important. Isabella, naturally, she knows how to destroy the nest. Apparently destroying the lasers makes everything explode, so it's really just like a black hole invention. It's kind of interesting how Calder has all of this stuff that's similar to black hole inventions. Also, this scene is way more emotional in Days of Ruin. Just wanted to point that out. Okay. So this might seem reckless, but in this kind of mission, recklessness is always what makes you succeed. So 24 damage. And 33 damage. If these two units are still alive at the end, then that's probably not going to be enough. Oh well, it's very easy to target that cannon anyway, so I'll build like a B-copter or something later. Capture all this stuff. And as for these units, the fighter was positioned here so it could destroy this fighter right away. And this bomber can... that laser fires on this turn, but you can see that bombers do 82 damage, which is a pretty big amount. Let's have it support this side, because I can't really shoot at any cannon that's not going to fire. So I'll hit this first. Maybe that'll make it increase the survivability of the Will War Tank. These guys can go forward. And we have money for a bomber, so that's definitely what we want to see right now. All of these units did not get hit by the mortar, so I guess they can try and contribute. I guess you're going to need something more to distract the mortar fire. And this bike can start capturing here. And we have enough money for more bikes. There's going to be a lot of bikes. Honestly, this mission is kind of a little bit bland if you think about it, because it's just a bunch of properties and stuff on a huge plane. I mean, the Dual Strike final map was even worse. By the way, one of Calder's bases in direct range of the laser when it fires in that particular direction. It's really interesting. Oh, and I've neglected to talk about Calder himself. He hasn't deployed a CO unit yet, but he is a CO in this game. This is the only map that he's in the campaign mission, so let's have a look. So he's got a CO zone of 3. His boosts are the same as Tabitha. Interesting. And what's also interesting is that he has no CO power, so he's a bit like Forsyth. All units in his CO zone will recover 5 HP every day. That's a lot, and he has to pay money for it, so that is sort of a weakness. But you know, with that much recovery, it's not like you need to produce even more new units, right? So he's got a recovery CO power. And he's got tech a lot like black holes. I mean, there are all sorts of theories that try to connect this game to the Wars World games. Like, even though that's probably not official canon or anything, it's still fun to think about. I mean, just the idea of, like, well, we haven't gotten to that part yet. I won't spoil that particular piece of dialogue. So, how much HP is this laser going to have left over? 18. Which, 18 is not enough, I think. No, it isn't. So this bomber's going to have to come into the mix. But that's fine. And, oh, he built a missile. So, I guess I want to take care of that here and now. See, it's very easy to spawn camp the units coming out of here. And, Oh, what happened? On Dark Conflict, he managed to build a bomber. The fighter was still there! It lived on one hell of a Days of Ruin, and it blocked the bomber from spawning. That's so weird. Wow. Okay, so it's day 3. I guess don't fire the copter quite yet. So you can block those reinforcements from coming. You're normally not allowed to sit on the spaces where they appear at all. I think it's blocked. Yeah. Can't go on there. But if the enemy unit is still there, then it's perfectly fine. That is so strange. Okay, can the tank do enough? The tank just barely can't do enough. I guess that's why I would normally have the anti-air attack the laser on the first turn, so that's a bit of a deviation, but it's totally okay, I think. If we could get a missile into the place where the units spawn, that would be really, really good. Right, so it's an odd number turn, so this factory is in a pretty good position. I'm going to make it a war tank. That's probably going to be a CO'd war tank. Just spikes this turn. Alright, that's enough. I want my money on the next turn. So that did cause something of a deviation. I wonder if that's going to be... I shouldn't have bothered with that war tank. It was going to get hit by the laser anyways. Oh yeah, Calder has now CO'd a fighter. This has gotten very interesting. He's talking about the virus, of course. See, the fact that it was meteors that destroyed the world leads to, like I've talked about this before, it leads to the theory that Sturm had something to do with it. Which is fun, but probably not correct. I mean, it's like thinking that Sensei is literally Yamamoto from Super Famicom Wars, because in Japan he's called Yamamoto. I mean, the countries in Super Famicom Wars were the same as in the Wars World game, so I guess it's possible. I don't know. Ed, you should really know that Stolos created the virus by now. I thought that was made clear a while ago. Or maybe they just thought he mutated it. I don't know. Keep that line in mind. Well, if you're interested in seeing that, I'll be happy to show you. Unfortunately, things seem to have deviated, so I don't know what to do now. Okay. I really should have seen the damage to this bomber coming, but whatever. It's only got 2 health left, so just do this. There we go. So 1 laser down. And it's turn 4. So I think it's the middle laser that we want. Unfortunately, you can only realistically hit each laser 1 at a time. So the AI decided to be strange and keep the fighter all the way at the back, even though I'm pretty sure I made the same movements in both games. Well, It's not a big deal. We'll figure something out. Let's just use the touchscreen here. 80% to a B-copter. Yeah, they definitely deviated way too much, so I think it's time I switch to just Days of Ruin, because this one looks far more likely to succeed. I'll just have to try again if it doesn't end up working out in Dark Conflict. It's probably better to just do it this way. And from here on out, any dialogue I will have to record separately. So yes, all of these bikes everywhere. Built them all so it could capture cities and stuff. And, it's day 4, so a mortar isn't coming on this side. Let's get a bomber. I think it's time I start working on the anti-air forces, too. Who knows if that anti-tank will do anything? It might distract the unit. But Calder does have... Yeah, see, that's... Wow. I don't know how the targeting for those mortars works. I said it was like silos, but now I'm not too sure, because it just damaged his own unit. That's another thing about this map, by the way. The inventions can damage his units, too. I don't think that was possible in Advance Wars 2. Like, maybe the laser could damage black hole units, but I know they were protected from just about everything else. So that's one difference that they have. Okay, so turn 5, which means the middle laser is firing. Or is it? And I don't need to hit the thing right now, do I? A mortar is not coming, so the war tank can start moving this way. So I think my record for this is 7 turns. It's probably not going to be 7 turns exactly in this playthrough, but you never know. But that's the defense you're dealing with the CO unit, by the way. But he went into a fighter, so that means he can only really damage bombers, which means my ground units are probably going to actually come in very handy right now. Unless I can bluff him off with the missile. Not really bluff him off, but it's just my word for it. So I guess it's time to start cranking out some anti-air units to fend off that fighter. So something actually really weird happened in a failed attempt at this mission. You know the tactic in Advance Wars 2 where you would stop the factory units by just blocking that? Well, actually it's going to get demonstrated right here. So he kept his unit on the spot where the unit would normally spawn. So that means a new unit can't come out of there, because he's blocking it. This is something that I didn't think could happen, because you yourself cannot move into these spaces. They're obstructed, or you're just not allowed there. Oh, I have to record all of this cannon destroyed dialogue too, don't I? Well, that's gonna be so weird. I guess it's not important enough to actually display, but we'll see. Oh, you could also... Wow, okay. Okay. I didn't expect to be able to do that, but you can actually trap Calder's unit like this, too. Oh, my goodness. Is anything in range of the war tank? No. Well, regular tanks are, but what do they matter? Okay, so you can kind of see why this mission, like, hypes itself up and then just turns into a kind of, it would be kind of harsh to call it an embarrassment, because you do have to solve a puzzle in order to make all of this work, but still, what are you doing, game designers? I've misclicked. Oh no, 1,000 less gold. Not that I don't have enough. I've got plenty. This tank is gonna get mortared. Oops. Well, I don't mind it too much. The one on the right is the hardest one, because you have to go through a lot in order to get over there. Yeah, I should have been watching the laser range for sure. Now the tank is probably going to come out and blow it up. I can at least chip a little bit of health off of it. I might actually get the turn 12 dialogue. What turn is it now? Oh, 7. Just a little bit closer and I'll have him. Okay, let's see if I can get as close as possible and protect the bomber. We can actually fire at Calder's unit, and this will force him to recover. I'll take care of the B-copter first, actually. Because he can't shoot at anything from inside of there anyways, and none of his units will be able to take advantage of the CO zone. You'd think that this map would be a lot more cramped, because then he would be able to actually use his CO abilities. Like, I've been saying all throughout this game that the CO abilities are wasted because the maps just aren't designed with them in mind. And in a lot of cases, you just can't use COs at all. So, I guess that's the big running flaw with this game. I think this game is really good. It has a great storyline, and it has, like, great multiplayer, but the missions in single player, they just really aren't working, and you've probably seen by now that the default multiplayer missions are also really terrible. So, swing and a miss. Yes, there's this dialogue too, which means over in Dark Conflict, when I get to this point, I have to record that separately. But this is the big moment. There's actually one final twist to this story. So yes, we knew Calder cloned himself, because how else would his daughters exist? Also, a really great line. You're gonna see that that line is not there in Dark Conflict. It's really epic. Star Wars 2, The Clone Wars. So yes, Calder himself, the Calder we've been fighting this entire time, is a clone. And I think that's interesting because I've been thinking throughout this entire playthrough that Calder is kind of one-dimensional. Wouldn't that make sense for him to be one-dimensional if he himself were a clone that was, like, engineered and stuff? Alright. So now what I need to do is, I know I can finish the map right here, but now what I need to do is, I'm going to make a save state, and now I just have to end turn over and over until turn 12. Alright, here's the turn, like, 8-ish dialogue, I think. So I'm kind of having a rough time with this one. But, one thing that I found out that I think will be of interest is that, it turns out that Calder's healing, it takes place after the it takes place before the mortars fire. So if the mortar damages his own unit, he won't repair it. That's, I guess, interesting, I suppose. I'm guessing that the original Calder wasn't really a... Oh, you can't even see his face. It's on the top screen. I just realized. Well, look it up yourself if you want. You don't need him staring into your soul. Okay, so here's the turn 12 dialogue. With text like this, I think they were well aware that if you last until turn 12, then you probably should start over anyways. Because completing the mission while surviving to turn 12, probably really difficult because you allow Calder to build up his forces so much. And this dialogue isn't even worth anything anyways. It doesn't have anything interesting in it. But this is kind of an interesting philosophy because it's like the exact opposite of Metal Gear. Like, throughout Metal Gear, you basically see that conflict is kind of in the nature of man, or at least that's what they're saying, something like that. Okay, so that was short but sweet. Alright then. Okay, finally, this is the last bit of dialogue that I have to record like this. And it's probably just about the same anyways. Someone will appreciate this at some point, I hope. Yeah, it's basically the same. Alright, I think it's finally over. As long as this bomber does enough damage, which I think it will. I put will behind it after all. Yes! Finally! Okay, let's switch back to both at the same time, and here we go. Finally, Days of Ruin is done! That's the last laser, which means the whole thing spontaneously explodes. And that's how he goes down. Fade to white, and we cut to... Oh, I think this is actually a special clear screen, so that's nice. I S-ranked it, on one of the versions anyways. And immediately we cut to 1 year later. 1 year on. If you say so. Oh, yeah. Hope Village in Dark Conflict. Typical. Well, I guess this is a bit of an epilogue. Oh, the meteors... Well, the meteors fertilizing the soil is something that is only stated in Days of Ruin. Interesting. I don't know how the meteors would fertilize the soil. I don't know. There would need to be, like, bugs and stuff or something. Hey, that could make for a great plot point in the sequel, if they want one. Suddenly the meteors from outer space have put something in the... Oh, I just only caught that in the corner of my eye, but I think Lily just called her bear Mr. Teddy. So Mr. Bear kind of does exist even in Dark Conflict. Yeah, there it is, Mr. Teddy. So she does talk to her bear. Sort of. But not like throughout the game, only now. And she's still crazier in Days of Ruin, which is how I like her. Yeah, they went with the crazy talk in Days of Ruin way better. And I think it's better off for it, yeah. Maybe a little too crazy, but with losing so many parts of the system, maybe she is kind of losing it. Yeah, that was probably handled better in Days of Ruin. You know, I've been saying that Days of Ruin handled everything better, and I pretty much still believe that. There are some interesting parts to Dark Conflict, but I think Dark Conflict was too afraid of getting creative. That's a really big thing in localization, is how creative do you want to get when you're supposed to be translating the game. And I think Days of Ruin proves that there are some liberties that are perfectly allowed. Like, all of the humor that they put into Days of Ruin, it's working because this is freaking Advance Wars. This is where they talk about how clones might not have the same lifespan as a human. This came up in Dual Strike also, I remember. So everyone's been cured of the virus, and I think Dr. Morris made an actually pretty good joke. I might have missed it completely. Oh yeah, now they're talking about clones. Yeah, I'm not paying too much attention to it myself, honestly. Yes, it's funny. At least the more likable person would live. The future is uncertain, so it's best to just work with what we've got. And we cut to Tasha and Gage, who are... They're milking cows. How would you know how a cow is looking at you? I don't know if they've ever made facial expressions that much. I'm Catalia, and I'm fine. Had to slip in an Apollo Justice reference. And one more miracle for the road. The dust is clearing and the sun is getting through. Which is good because we kind of need that to grow our food. One actually good-looking final shot of these two. Isabella finally got clean clothes. They both finally got clean clothes. And then cut to credits. So that's Advance Wars Days of Ruin, aka Dark Conflict. And you know, I'm glad I decided to play through the game this way. It was kind of a train wreck as far as video production goes. This whole thing must have looked so unprofessional, and I apologize for that. But it was great to re-experience the story of, hey, look, it's Kohei Maeda. Did you know he was a writer for this game? Anyways, let's not go down that road. It was great to go through the plot of Days of Ruin again. It's definitely the best plot in all of Advance Wars, which is really not saying much, because this isn't a series where you think about the story too much. The characters are definitely enjoyable in all of the games, but the actual story and character development and writing is top-notch in this game, that is to say, it's a step above the other two. Like, video game plots generally don't... I don't want to sound like too presumptuous or anything, but typically, unless you're playing an RPG, video game plots are not that great. But this game, it was definitely a step above the others. Now, as for Days of Ruin as a game, I kind of have a bit of a mouthful. Replaying the campaign has kind of, like, drilled in the idea that this game does not really do single-player that well. I'm considering doing some of the trial maps in order to explore those and really show that they kind of... Was that Toze? Toze's involved? Well, that just explains a lot. Yeah, the trial maps are not that much better. There's not really a lot of good ones. Since there are 38 of them, they kind of phoned in a couple of the maps, and you've seen by now that the multiplayer maps, the default multiplayer maps, are really awful. Like, I don't think there's a good one in any of the cases or anything. But, yeah, another good thing about Days of Ruin is I haven't shown off the map editor. It's a big improvement. You can actually make decent maps, and which is good because multiplayer balance is also a lot better than what is normal for Advance Wars. Normally, Advance Wars is not that, well, Dual Strike is kind of okay in this regard, but this game, it actually does multiplayer quite well, and I wish I had gotten a little bit more into the multiplayer while this game was big, but, you know, this game, overall, it does a lot right. There's some things it doesn't do as right, but, you know, it's great that we got this game before Advance Wars lay dormant for so long, and now we're getting the reboot camp finally, so that's going to be something to look forward to. So, that's the end of Advance Wars Days of Ruin. We can finally play as Calder in multiplayer. I'm Ephraim225, and I think that will do it for this playthrough, unless I go to the trial maps. So, see you for that, if possible. Otherwise, you know, look forward to Reboot Camp, and some videos of that, maybe, and whatever else I decide to try. There's so much I want to play on the channel, so, look forward to that. Later, everybody.